Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Christian Delfino, and I'll be joined in a moment by my colleague John Broadhead, and we are very much live here from Los Angeles. Now, two things before we get into our main program. First one is that right underneath the viewing window that you're currently viewing this webcast is a chat window, and our moderator, Jeremy, is live with you now, and he'll be taking any questions that you have and answering those for you in real time right in the chat window. Second thing is that we are broadcasting live from our studio here in Los Angeles in the Roland studios. And you can see a nice wide shot. Good morning, everyone. And really, everything that we are doing here is a complete Roland end-to-end solution. So everything from the audio is being mixed by the M300 V mixer. Our video is being mixed by the V-800HD video mixer, with the audio and the video being embedded into the VC30HD. And again, going into Wirecast by Telestream, and we are broadcasting to you live using Livestream. So again, a total Roland end-to-end solution. So what we are talking about today is video format freedom. So we are talking about being able to be anywhere at any time with any set of sources, with any kind of output display, and being able to have a video switcher that will accommodate all of your sources and connect to all of your output displays. And this is thanks to the fact that we actually have scalers on all of the inputs in our switchers, including the V1600 and the new V-800HD. So both of these have scalers on every input. Now, the benefit to this is that unlike other switchers where you have to match all your sources to a common resolution, you have to lock your switcher and your sources become a slave, if you will, to your switcher's resolution. We give you the freedom to basically output to any resolution and plug in any type of input, whether that's analog, digital, camera, or computer. This really is video format freedom. And we pioneered this with the V1600 HD. So we introduced this at NAB 2 years ago, and since then it's been a huge success. And customers are realizing more and more that this gives them video format freedom in a way that was never before possible. So many installations where SD or some other form of input was already existing, the 1600 was put in, and we have all the different connector types so they could use their existing infrastructure and gradually grow to an HDSDI kind of infrastructure. So here's an example in a church in the southeast, and here's another example of another church in the northeast this time, and you can see that there's a little split going out with the sources to our VR5 that is being used for web streaming in this case. Now, another huge application for the V1600 has been production companies. Here you can see one of our production partners, Ilios Lighting, that is based in Austin, Texas. And Ilios used the 1600 on about 7 stages at the South by Southwest Festival a couple of weeks ago, flying 1600s in from around the country to try to accommodate all of these different stages. And what production companies love about the 1600 is you never quite know what you're going to get when you show up at a production. So you can drop the 1600 in, plug in your cameras, plug in your computers, regardless of what they are. And as anybody in production knows, you get all these last-minute requests from your client. Well, you don't have to worry with the 1600, or now with the V800, you can just plug those in and work with those. So here's another example, and this is V2 Labs. This is actually a couple weeks ago at the Ultra Festival, and you can see here that the 1600 is the centerpiece, the mission control, the whole brain of the operation, if you will, for this large, incredible LED wall setup that was used at the Ultra Festival in Miami just a couple of weeks ago. So V2 Labs has been a partner of Roland Systems Group from the early 2000s, all the way from our basic V4, and has grown along with us and now uses 1600 as the main workhorse for their productions. And V2 Labs, you may not know their name, but you certainly know the clientele that they work with. Everybody from Sting to the Police to Coldplay, Ultra Festival, Coachella Festival, all of these major A-level events and artists, they have either provided the visuals for or done the visual infrastructure, provided the front end, and done the mixing that go to these large LED installations, etc. So what we're going to cut to is a video with Velo Verkhaus, who is the principal of V2 Labs, talking about how the V1600 truly is a lifesaver for them when they're doing festivals and all these events where different people show up and just happen to hand them any kind of cable with some program on the end of it, and it totally saves them. So at the beginning is a little trailer promo with some of the events that they've done, so you can appreciate the kind of level of event that the 1600 has been the main central part of, and then some comments from Velo. And when we come back, John Broadhead will be here to take you through a full in-depth demonstration of the new V-800. So again, here's a video from V Squared Labs, and John Broadhead will be here in a moment.
I feel you in my bones. You're knocking at my windows. You're slowly letting me go, and I know this feeling goes so it's feeling in my bones. Left hook, I didn't see it coming. Left hook, you've got that aim. Rushes out, run away.
So the most exciting thing about the 1600 is the plethora of inputs it can take. But the fact that there's 8 HD SDIs on there is really, that's a festival lifesaver. Because this small little switcher can, it seemingly handle such a quantity of digital inputs. And the fact that it'll take SD or HD SDI is pretty awesome. And the scaling has been great, especially for taking in different standard defs or like for example, to take a guest program walked up to me at Coachella and handed me a VGA cable. And last year, with the VGA, I would have had to have tried to figure out how to get them in the Folsom. I wouldn't have been able to see what I was doing until I hooked up a monitor on the Folsom, stopped everything, stopped the whole show, went over there and muddled around, unpatched, repatched, and I just literally plugged them into the bus, sent, boom, there it was, showed right up. Oh, thank God. So I thought he was coming from the UK, who knows what it was, and it took it.
Well, we're back again. Good to have you all tuning in. The V-800, we're excited about it. It takes, as Christian said, a lot of those pieces, a little bit less inputs, but a lot of the pieces people have been asking for and included it in this unit. Before we get started, though, into a specific demonstration, let's take a look at, I would say, the real foundational features in this particular unit. And to do that, we'll just hit a few theory items and some practical pieces, technical pieces in the unit. The first point is this is a full 3G compatible mixer. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, but it essentially takes it up to that pinnacle level of quality, right up to 1080p uncompressed through SDI. The full range of input and output connectivity that you're going to see in this is really second to none in terms of this class of mixer. The next point is that it is true multi-format. We're going to show you what that means, but from channel to channel, every one can be any input that you need it to be, and true multi-format. So you can have HD beside SD, beside 3G, beside a Mac, beside a PC, anything you want to connect in. And last but not least, we have a built-in multi-viewer and a few other nice features in there that we have included with a new engine, the power of that. So let's look at the 3G. What does that mean? Well, the G is really gigabits per second. And typically, your conventional HD has been running up to 1.5 gigabits, and that is only really capable of handling 1080i. So you can see in this graphic here that the interlaced is odd and even lines happening every other frame, gives you that interlacing that can happen. Now moving to 3G, and it's over one cable. There are some people that support 3G, but it's over a dual link SDI. This is all single BNC SDI cable, and you can get a single frame for complete frame, not odd and even lines, and that's what gives us the 1080p, P for progressive, in that solution, 3G. And that's important to note that that happens on output as well. The next point, and I promise this is the only slide with all text. The rest will have lots of color and images. But we just got to get this science out of the way to understand the power in here. 444 10-bit processing. What does that mean? Well, the numbers refer to the chroma or the color subsampling, each of those numbers. The next point is that the first number is about brightness, and that's where a lot of information is carried. The second and third relate to how the colors change and are different between different bands of color. So what it means when we go to 444 is that nothing in there is compressed. It's the platinum standard. It's the pinnacle of color ability. And to give you an example, a lot of great and respected formats have color sampling, subsampling in them. 422, some of you will know about the 1600s, a 422 product. ProRes, XDCam, you can see those lists that are there. 420 is in fact what we're used to watching a lot of when it comes to DVD and I believe Blu-ray as well. So 444 takes it up to that highest level. And obviously the source has to be capable of delivering that to the mixer, but the point is the mixer can take it and really exploit it and use it. And the typical, where this can be really seen is in computer graphic cards. So when you've got those images coming from a computer, you can really enjoy that color. To give a little bit more detail on that is you can see this slide. The top row actually has 4 different color subsampling schemes. You can see there 411, 420, etc. And the first row represents how color appears. And because they're all, the first number is 4, you can see that the color doesn't really change that much. But the second row actually, we give you a representation of the difference in resolution with the between all 4 of those. And it might not come across as clear streaming. We are streaming in near HD to you today, so those of you not watching on your iPhones or something should be able to see that the 444 black and white color differences in that far right there will actually be a lot sharper than 422 and 420. This is another way of explaining it just before we move on. In that last column over on the far right, you will see that the colors, there's an 4x2 matrix up there of pixels, really 8 pixels, and the resultant image is at the very top. You can see what you're going to be seeing down on the very bottom row if you're dealing with color subsampling. So obviously 444 has no subsampling in any direction, so it's full resolution, full vertical. Okay, so that's maybe enough science in there. 3G, pinnacle of progressive, 1080 progressive, along with 444 10-bit processing, gives you the best resolution and the best color resolution as well. So there you have it with the 800. The other feature we want to hit is the connectivity. Let's look at the rear of the product. We put it up in a slide so you can see it instead of trying to get a camera on the back. The 4 SDI can be 3G, HD, or SD. And again, any of those beside each other. So you don't have to have all of one source in order to be able to connect your SDI. They can be SD, HD, 3G side by side. We've got 4 composite as well. Some of the feedback was we still need some composite inputs, and they're available to use as well. The DVI-I can handle, of course, your digital or analog DVI signals, as well as with a little adapter HDMI. And last but not least, your 15-pin D-sub that can handle any of your computer, VGA, wide XGA, as well as component, your YPBPR analog component coming in from DVD and Blu-rays and the like. On the output side of things, we've got 2 SDI. Again, they're 3G. And special note, that output is 3G. So if you've got it set to 1080p, you can drive your SDI projectors, your 3G projectors now, directly from this. No matter what comes in, it'll be scaled to that. We've got one composite. This is important too. It's always active. You have a standard definition output that's always there. Great for archiving to DVD, or if you don't are not streaming in HD, you can take that output and go, always have a standard definition coming out no matter what your main output is set to. Two DVI Ds or HDMI, so digital connectors there, and RGB as well as component. So there you see on the back, you've got those great connectivity story. No additional cards or converters necessary. Compact, it's portable. You've got rack ears that come with the unit right here. So very easy to move around. Now, on the story of formats, let's look at this particular graphic. A lot of detail. Needless to say, no matter what you plug in, unit can pretty well accept it and then scale it to whatever your output resolution is. So you've got all your HD formats, both interlaced and progressive. You've got all of your VESA, VGA formats, again, in the analog or digital world directly. So tons of options there. You're not going to run into anything that can't really be handled in this particular mixer. So let's look at one of the other great features here, a scaler on every input. So this graphic will quickly explain that, and then we'll do a live demonstration here. So you take an original HD source, and then you can compress it, you can squeeze it, do whatever you need. Perhaps you need to send it to an LED wall that's a weird format, weird pixel ratio. You can scale it to that, or maybe a super wide image that's going to stretch across your stage. So let's take a look directly at how we would do that in this particular mixer. So we've got on this unit a menu button. We've got a multi-viewer. We'll show you that connection in a moment. Let's just jump into our menu system. I'm going to go into the input area and take a look. You can see each channel pops up and what we're happening to be looking at the moment. In this particular case, if you got a picture of me going out to the program, it's coming in at 1920 by 1080 through one of our SDI cameras. If I enter into this mode, you can see I get all of these scaling functions here. I can zoom, I can resize it, do whatever I want to do. So in this particular case, let me take this image, and you can see now that I am zooming into myself here, or I can even drop into a manual mode and start squeezing, say I'm squeezing that to a different resolution altogether. So that is per input. This is very handy when you move to having computers connected, where you want to just zoom in on a particular part of a slide. You want to crop out some logos. Often, especially when you plug in analog PCs, Macs, whatever, it doesn't quite fill the frame all the time. Or maybe you want to just pull it up, frame it. That's what you're allowed on the input. On the output side, let's show you the cropping feature. I'll jump back to my menu here, jump into my output mode. And one of the sources, I'm going to jump in here. Now my ability here to zoom, size, position, and crop my output resolution as well. So not only on every input, but also output. Let's show you exactly what I mean by that. Of course, I can zoom. Let me go back down to the cropping feature here. The cropping feature is used when you're doing LED walls, and you've got a funny sized a particular wall. Sometimes, you know, they're 321 by, 572, and you want to work from there. And one of the great features in all of these scalar questions, I know some of you are asking the question, likely, is about latency. So does this add more to it? In fact, what it does is it eliminates, a lot of times when you're using LED walls, you have to put other scalars in the link, and that's going to add to your latency. In this particular case, because it's all built in, you're going to get the fastest form. Now, because this has frame syncs built into it, you're typically in the 1 to 2 frame level. You're not coming from a house source. Images are captured. The sync is found typically within a frame or so, and then you move on. So when you're doing this cropping, that's especially good with LED walls. A big challenge out there is being able to get the image, get the camera image up on the display with the lips still matching the audio. So if we do that with this particular source, I'm going to move the cropping. Right now it says my processor's in the upper left. So I'm going to go to, you can see I'm going to 4:3, going to 5:4, I'm going to 16:9, or I can go to manual. And as soon as I do that, now I go to being able to crop to a particular pixel source. So you can see what's happening now is I'm coming up on the particular pixel source here. You can see down here I've got a LED wall in this case that, let's just do random numbers here, that's one of those, narrow LED walls you see in concerts hanging over the stage, and each performer is in each one directly. So let's do that and make it. Let's make it a really long wall here. So I've got one of those cool LED walls that's randomly at 577 by 1080, let's say. But you see what it's done to the image. I'm just squeezed up into the middle. So then now I can take it up and just move up into my size in the horizontal dimension. And let's move this here. And just move up a little higher, sorry. There we go. And I can pull myself out to look as wide or as skinny as I wish to look, and I can lose about 10 pounds instantly if I do that. And then you can even move your position horizontally. So you can see what I've done here, and I can move myself right into the center. And you can see now I'm still a little skinny, but hey, I like it better that way. So I can position, scale, crop exactly to the position that I want to move to. So that, in a very quick nutshell, is the power that's possible with the scaler on every input, scaler on every output. Let me just go back into my menu here and unfatten myself. I'll just pull this back to our 0, level and position myself back into the 0 as well. Okay, so very, very powerful. So not only input by input, but output by output. At the same time, let's look at a feature called multi-zoom. Here's a graphic that explains it. The V1600 has it, as well as the 800. In the V1600, you can use a loop-throughs to patch into any input next to it. So you can take a single camera source, replicate it across multiple inputs, and then resize it. Let's do that in this unit. We've got a special feature in here that allows shared inputs. So right now, let's take our band, our fake band here, and we're going to go into the menu system and go into our input. And you can see on inputs 5 and 6, what we have is an RGB component signal coming in at 720, and it's just of a band. And on number 6, we can say, you know what? Let's share the input between these two particular sources. So from this source into this source. So we're able to then make it look like we have multiple cameras. Even though we have one camera, we can take it and scale it into a specific area within the, for example, the drum area. So what you've already seen, of course, is the multi-viewer. It's a very important part of the 800. You can see all 8 inputs, as well as the program and the preview. And you can see on the back of this connector here, right around on the next slide, you can see an HDMI output there, and that simply connects to any monitor that you want to use. Now the important part is a 60p monitor or 1080, and it should be HDCP compatible. That's another feature I want to talk about here: the ability to actually use HDCP data, media on this. Often, if you do not have HDCP compatible mixer, you'll plug in a Blu-ray player or any commercially available material, and it won't pass through. Everything will be dead because it's a copy protection mechanism for those of you that aren't aware of HDCP. Because it can pass through, soon as you enable HDCP, you get a little light that appears over here on the far, knowing that you're enabled, and what will happen is your SDI ports will go dead, and only HDCP enabled ports will be alive. That is, your DVI-D HDMI outputs will then be able to be used. So because of that, to keep that all safe and protected and legal, we make the multi-viewer HDCP compatible and necessary as well. Let's then move to another feature that we have expanded, the Chroma engine. Now, in this particular unit, we've expanded that ability, being able to adjust based upon a hue saturation value level, which is a little bit more intuitive to the human sensation. You're adjusting a saturation of a color or the hue or the color wheel that you're used. And it's going to allow a stronger and a tighter key around particular images. And remember, that takes you right up to 1080p, 3G, 444, 10-bit processing as well. So let's just quickly demonstrate what that would look like here. We've got down on this area here, we have, in this case, a little iPad plugged in with a lower third set up on the, I can pull that up here with a blue screen, and then I can just take the DSK Live in this case, and you can see my program output now has the lower third chroma key, very tight. You can even see if you go to the full up output level, there is some blue sitting right here in that particular graphic that is not affected by this blue. So it's very tight, even with some blues still remaining in the actual graphic. So a great feature, tighter chroma keying in this unit. The other type of keyer we have is an external keyer. And what that allows you to do is take another source through either the still image or through another input coming from a Mac or PC, and actually have it blend. So you can see on the graphic where you've got a fill amount and a source. The source is really a grayscale, and wherever it is not black or white, you will get a transparency. So looking at that next slide, you can see in that zoom up of that example, you can see around her necklace area, you've got a graphic coming in, a nice opacity there of the graphic, where you actually get to see the necklace shining through there and get nice layering and a nice blending out of your onto your graphic. So external key, that's a new feature. Let's come back to the top panel and just spend just a few more minutes talking about how we're organized here. It is an 8-input mixer. But you'll notice because of the back, we actually have 16 connectors. So there's 4 SDI, 4 composite, as well as 4 DVI and 4 RGB component. What this allows you to do then is, of the total 16 that we have, you choose the 8 that you want to have active at one time. And essentially, if we jump up into our menu, you can see that on our input menu, we can cycle through whichever input we want, a 3G HDI or a composite or a shared input. You can see as I move back and forth here. Okay, so that allows us to mix and match what we use. We could have a 3G beside a composite, beside an HD, beside an SD. One thing that's very, very handy too, though, is this memory area right up top here. And it has 8 banks, and each bank can have 8 memory settings. So that gives you a total of 64 different settings. Where this especially comes in handy is when I have multiple things connected. So say I do have 2 or 3 PCs as well as some Macs as well plugged in. I can have up to 8 computers plugged in here. And in each memory setting, I could have one setting be using the Mac on input 5, and I could have another setting using a PC on input 5. So even though only 8 can be active at once, you can jump very easily between your memory settings and just trigger and turn on certain ports to a certain channel. Now, and the last point I want to make in our menu system, getting ahead of myself, system here, we can jump into a cross point assign. Right down at the bottom, you can see here, cross point. What that allows us to do is on our busing here, we can tell what input to be aligned with which channel. So I don't have to have the same number of inputs, like 1 through 4 can only be my SDI or my composite. I could have a camera beside a computer, and that's strictly just a patch bay setting. So you can see here, channel 2 can really, you can see happening, I've got channel 3 can be 4, 3, 2, or 1, whatever I want to make it. And again, that can be saved within the cross point, within the memory saving. And what we do on this panel here is we give you this strip by default, but we can simply just remove the magnetic label and stick on a new magnetic paper. This is great paper, by the way. It's from Avery, magnetic paper. You stick it in your printer and you can print whatever you want on it. We will have a template, a PDF form template that you can just use and type in what you need, so you get a nice pretty font on there instead of writing it with a Sharpie, although that works just as well. As well, the ability to have an upstream keyer as well as a downstream keyer, all your picture-in-picture, the ability to adjust your scaling and your sizing all from this particular area. So the joystick and the size does not just apply to picture-in-picture anymore. If you've got it set to input or output, that's how you can really hone in and get those pixel accurate dimensions as well as positioning right out here without having to jump into your memory. Right up here we have our USB key, and we've got a number of inputs or number of images loaded. You can have up to 16 images loaded, and we've got a few loaded here, like a rear image, for example, of the unit. That's handy. Those can be used for external keying. They can be used for logos when you're at a corporate event. Just want to go quick to a logo. Those are some of the highlights. We got our transitions. You can output fade to a still image. You can frame grab into memory. A lot of other great little features. We won't take the time. There'll be other tutorials. The manual is up online. The block diagram's up online. So it's those are ready to go. Let me pull up, just as I finish, a couple diagrams. This is actually a very similar setup to what we have here. Christian already showed, but this will be very standard. Basically, cameras, SLR, consumer grade cameras, high-end cameras, all plugged into the unit. You got PCs, you've got Macs, you've got any kind of input coming in, it can handle it. You've got your multi-viewer. Take your sound. We've got a 300 in the studio here today, running into VC30 and then out to what you're watching now in close to HD. We've got an event performance where maybe not so many cameras, or you're really running more visuals. And those visuals are coming from SD sources, from computers, from Blu-ray, wherever it may be, again, mixing and matching, sending multiple outputs to different screens as well. So some great features there that can handle it. As we finish here, just a reminder, again, I think it's pretty obvious from what we've talked about where this thing fits. It's really any kind of corporate, rental, live performance, house of worship. Those are all applications that are suited perfectly for this, where you just don't know what you're going to get, or you have a variety of different sources that you want to all end up looking as good as they possibly can. Again, at 3G, scaled up, 444 color processing, with any kind of multi-format, the convenience of a multi-viewer, it's really very powerful. So, with that, you have our email and ability to ask us any questions. Stay tuned. This availability production begins in June, so we'll have a few in June and ramping up into the summer, July and August. Pricing is still being determined, but I think you're all going to be very happy. Well, I know you're all going to be very happy. How's that? So as I just finished, I'll just confirm that we don't have any outstanding questions still from here.
How did we do it? Questions.
And delay. Okay, great. So we had some questions about how did we do this stream. I can actually back it up to that particular diagram there. If you want to throw me up in picture-in-picture or or the full, which is fine. We're actually, in this case, because this is the only 800 we have in here, we're using a 1600, but the same thing. That's pretty well exactly what we are doing in the studio today. We've got 4 cameras connected, and I think they're all different cameras in that way. And we've got a couple computers connected, one for the lower third that you saw pop up with our names on it. And we're coming out of the DVI port on here. If you want to show the live shot here again, there is a HDMI port right on the front here. We're coming DVI out of the V1600 into here as one. And then on the back, we've got XLR. So we're just taking a audio feed from our M300 right now, coming into here. Now, built into this unit then is the ability to blend the two together. A digital video stream coming at 1080 with our audio coming from our M300 and muxing them together, putting them together, and we're coming out FireWire directly into our iMac, going out to you through Wirecast on live stream. And built in is the delay of the audio so that we can get full lip sync. You can see Christian there manning the audio, so if I'm sounding great, it's all because of him. And you can see Chad is over there, and he's switching the 1600 right now. And we have Mark helping us as well, and he's on the jib crane right now. If there's no more questions, we'll just sign off for today. We'll run the promo video again, and thank you for watching. Thank you.